Good morning.
Welcome everybody to Moths in the morning. Watch Moths in the morning. Nice to see you all. I didn't actually have this view of everybody's lovely faces last night, so that's good.
A few coming in. I've just disabled the waiting room, so
it takes a little while for us all to come in. This big reveal is always exciting, isn't it? It's a build-up.
I had a small moth come into the shed last night when I was looking up, attracted by the light. I'm afraid I didn't get a photo of it. I was too juggling everything, but it's amazing what you notice when you start looking, isn't it? Great.
Yeah, so shall we start, or shall we perhaps remind people about the chatting?
Yeah. Okay, so I've got you all muted this morning, and I don't think you will be able to unmute yourselves. So I will be able to unmute you. Down at the bottom of the screen in the middle, there's a button that says chat. If you've got any questions or anything like that, concerns, then pop a post in there, and either Naomi or I or Simon will read those out. Or I might switch to you, but I'll give you some warning before I do. We are recording. We shared the video last night on YouTube, and so if you would prefer to remain anonymous, then if you could stop your video, and if you right click on yourself in participants, you can rename yourself as well. On the video, the majority yesterday was the presenter's face talking, or Naomi's face talking, and so it didn't show all of you lot all the time, so don't worry about screen faces or anything like that. We've also got a button down the bottom that says reactions, so you can give our presenters, our mothers, a round of applause when they find something exciting, or give them a thumbs up. So if you'd like to have a go at that now, that would be fantastic. We're also really interested in if you were able to join us last night, how you found it, whether you have any feedback or any thoughts, or whether you spotted any moths last night in your home or your gardens. If you would pop that in the chat. And if you weren't able to join us last night for one reason or another, if you'd be able to share with us where it is you're watching from, and kind of, we're also interested in how many people per householder are watching these, just for our funders to be able to give some statistics back for how many people we're interacting with. That would be fantastic. So just a reminder that we are recording, and if you would prefer to remain anonymous, if you would right click in participants on your name to rename yourself. You can pick a name of your choice, Elvis, whatever, and stop the video, turn your video off, and that will mean that you remain anonymous. I'm going to pass over to Naomi now, who is our hostess for this morning.
Yeah, welcome to Watch Moths, and we're going to be touring Devon, the various sites in Devon where we've got our moth experts, and they're going to reveal what they found overnight. Even though it's been wet and rainy, moths apparently can fly and find things in all weathers, and when it's cold as well. So we perhaps will talk a bit more about that as we go around. We'll start off with Simon, who's in Exeter in his back garden. Shall we have a look at Simon? Hi, Simon. Simon's going to show us what he's been discovering and explain what's happening or has happened overnight.
Well, hello everybody. I'm Simon Bates, coming to you from my small suburban garden on the north side of Exeter. And yes, the weather has been kind actually, because there's plenty of moths in my trap, which just goes to show that they don't mind a bit of rain. They do like a bit of warmth though. So here we go in my garden. I'm just pointing out, oh, this is difficult. There's the trap there at the bottom of the garden. So I'm going to zoom in to the trap and we'll have a look and see what we've got. Homemade Skinner trap after Bernard Skinner, an entomologist. And you can see there's a lot of condensation on these perspex baffles here. Well, let's just lift one of these up. And straight away, I hope you can see a lovely elephant hawk moth. These are going to feature quite a bit, I feel, today. I've actually got at least 3 in the trap, so this may be a case of a female having come in and attracted a male or several males. How's that on the screen? I suppose everyone else is muted, aren't they? What a punk of a moth that is. It's absolutely fantastic.
It's
It's a
beautiful,
brilliant
Simon.
view, Simon.
So I think they're called elephant hawk moths because the larvae are rather like elephants' trunks, green larvae. These are often found feeding on honeysuckle at this time of the year. I haven't actually got any honeysuckle in my garden, which is a strange thing because my wife loves it. But I have got quite a few. We've got quite a few penstemons, some beautiful penstemons. There's one variety there which I think is called hot lips. Another one here, and maybe the hawk moths do feed from these flowers. Maybe Barry or John would like to comment on that later, but there is the elephant hawk moth. Okay, I'm just going to pop you back and I'm going to go to the other side of the trap where another classic. In fact, on this carton here, we've got several. We've got another elephant hawk moth. We've got I think that's one of the underwings, but then of course, another classic, the buff tip. Focus. Hopefully that's in focus. I'll bring it into the light.
Yes, that's in focus, Simon.
Great.
It looks like a lovely little bit of twig.
Indeed, indeed. Isn't it absolutely superbly camouflaged? And perhaps I can try and put it on a twig later. This is something that I've learned from John. John was talking about this last time. He's brilliant at sort of mounting these creatures up in their sort of natural habitat and getting kids to try and spot them. So I might try and do that in a minute. And you can see it's sort of mimicking a birch twig, and they do feed birch and lots of the trees. So I'll put that one back. And then go over to my star lineup here. And the first thing I want to show you, unfortunately, these are in pots because it's just easier to show, but we have a beautiful early thorn. And hopefully you can see that it's got its wings folded up.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, so interesting. So this is one of those situations where the distinction between moths and butterflies is not always clear cut, because often the butterflies hold their wings up in this sort of position. Try and get that. So this is a male. Again, I might try and get it out so and show you the feathery antennae. It's a second generation of this species. This species comes out in the spring. So I think this is a lovely, crisp, newly emerged specimen. And actually, it may well have been the larvae feeding on my hazel tree here, because that's a species, again, that feeds on a wide variety of shrubs. So that's the early thorn. Now, this is where I start to need some help, because I've got, and I think I'll try, I know it's gone really active. I think what I've got here is one of the China marks. I'm going to call on Barry in a minute, but
Yeah,
I'm muted onto.
yeah.
Yeah, it's Anania coronata.
Wow, great. I mean, what's really nice about, apart from the name, which is beautiful, the moth is actually absolutely beautiful as well. It's only maybe 2 centimeters across, but hopefully you can see that beautiful marking, the cream spotting on it. I think, is this a species that has aquatic larvae?
No, it's not one of the China mark moths.
Right, okay.
No, it's not. It's trying to think of what the food plant is.
Okay.
I can't remember, I'm afraid. I think it may be elder, but I can't quite remember.
Okie dokie. Another species that I've caught, I caught this last week as well. This is a rather lovely one. It's quite yellowish, and this is barred straw. Now, it's not doing it at the moment, of course, but it has a rather interesting resting position where part of the wing, the sort of rear edge of the wing, is folded up a bit like a piece of paper. Maybe it will do that later and we can show that unusual resting position. So this is barred straw. There's another very similar species called the spinach, which also has that unusual resting position. Again, I don't know why that would be, what adaptation that, what advantage that gives it, but I should say that I grew up next to Manchester Airport, and one of my first love was actually, I confess, watching aeroplanes. And I don't know whether you could see this, but I'm calling this the Harrier jump jet moth. Again, I think, Barry, thank you. You helped me identify this last time. It's something called Endotricha. Let me just see if I can unscrew the top. You can see can you see how it's resting? It's a bit like a Vulcan bomber, and it's sort of resting on its front legs.
Yeah, I can see that.
I love the way it does
Brilliant.
that.
It's a brilliant position, isn't it? They're all different, aren't they? This is, and you have so many questions because you've been. How long have you been looking at moths, Simon?
Well,
you said you started after looking at birds.
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at moths for 14, 15 years, but I started in earnest, and then typically for me, I then moved on to other things, and I've come back to it during COVID. So I'm certainly not. I've got loads of questions. Okay, last one is the mystery moth. Well, in fact, that other one that I thought was a China mark is mystery moth as well, but here's another that I'm not sure what this is, but it's freshly emerged, and hopefully you can see it's absolutely stunning. Although it's small and brown, the markings on it are, again, it looks like a Vulcan bomber to me, but it's got beautiful streaking on it and lines.
I've just noticed John's just said it's a garden pebble.
A garden pebble, excellent. That's definitely.
What a lovely name that is.
Yes. I think that's a new species for my garden. So there we go. That's my selection, and I haven't even uncovered any of the egg boxes yet, but perhaps I can do that whilst I hand over to others.
Great, thank you, Simon. And we might have a bit more of a little tour of your garden at the end, just to see about some of the food plants that you've got there, or plants that moths like being in. Great. Well, thanks to Simon, and we're staying in Exeter to visit Chloe next and her boys. And Chloe set up a sheet, and she set up a special moth trap in the bathroom. Hi, Chloe.
Hello. Hi. So, yes, we're in Exeter. We're actually in our kitchen at the moment because we've recorded the unveiling or the reveal of our bathroom moth trap. But I thought I'd mention that we didn't actually find any moths in the park last night. We got a bit rained off. Anyway, I wasn't expecting us to find any moths in our bathroom this morning, and here's a little video of our reveal. So I wonder if you'll be able to see my sleepy boys. I feel a bit mean because I did wake them up really early. So I'm going to look at what we had.
Good morning. And I'm going to check if we've caught some moths, but I don't think we have because it was raining. Look, we got some up here. Got one right there. Very sneaky. Let's see. We have.
I've taken some close-up photos that I'll send you in a minute because we don't know what we're looking at, do we, boys? We're still right at the very beginning of figuring it out.
That's probably it, isn't it?
Yeah. But that's a lot.
Okay.
I feel actually a bit guilty rewatching that. Maybe shouldn't have woken them up so early. Anyway, we found 4 moths, as you might have been able to see. And Jenny, what do I do? I need to click on something to show you, don't I? There we go. This is the first of the moths that we found. And I have no idea what to do. Can anyone help?
Yeah, ribboned wave.
Ribboned wave. Wow, that's really great because we found 2 ribboned waves then. There's the other one. And then we found a very little guy, which I feel like is the same one that Simon found, but maybe from a different angle.
Yeah, that's right. Indica flammealis. Yep.
That's great. And and then this was the final one that we found stuck up in the corner.
That's a double striped pug.
Wonderful.
A double striped. I didn't hear that. What was it? Double striped
Hug.
hug. Oh.
So I'm pretty sure that these are the only moths that we ever catch in our bathroom whenever we do this. So either they really like our bathroom and like coming in, or we don't have a very big variety of plants in our garden. So I think we're going to do some work in finding new ways to plant them. But one of the things that we do have is a park that is next to our house. And last autumn, Hector and Felix and I collected some oak galls. I don't know whether you can see that picture on the left-hand side are oak galls, and they are basically acorns that wasps have made their homes in. And
That's me.
Yeah.
Because I was left hand.
That is,
Get it?
yeah.
So that's
Yes. So we collected these last year because someone told me that it was really easy to make oak gall ink. And John was telling me recently that oak galls land up being used by moths as well. And so I thought that was really nice. So you can see in this picture Felix grinding the oak galls. And we've turned that into a powder, and we landed up with about ½ litre worth of powder, which we mixed with water. And we left that for a week, along with a pot of, can you see a rusty horseshoe and a load of rusty nails? So we had a bowl of rusty horseshoes and nails and all sorts of things, and we poured maybe 300 ml of distilled vinegar into that and left that for a week as well. And by the end, the vinegar had gone a nice orange colour, and we strained both the oak gall water and the vinegar into a pot and mixed it with a couple of spoons of gum arabic powder. And that created this lovely oak gall ink. And it's the same recipe that Leonardo da Vinci used, and it's a permanent ink. So I'm slightly worried about the fact that Hector has more or less painted himself this morning. Apparently it's permanent and it darkens with age, so I have no idea what they're going to look like this afternoon. But we've been drawing moths, and the very first moth that we found, I don't know whether you'll remember me saying this, we found in our, last week, we found a scalloped oak moth. And this is a picture of a scalloped oak that's been drawn with oak gall ink.
That's lovely.
And we also sent out to some friends some of the oak gall ink, and they very kindly sent us back some pictures. So Daisy Pugh has sent us this picture of a Gothic moth, which is made with the ink that we made. And Claire Bryden has sent us this Great Oak Beauty. So we're really enjoying making pictures with the oak gall ink of moths. And this is today's effort, which rather got smudged by the cats. This is the danger of making artwork with cats around. The cat climbed on it and then whisked his tail, so there's loads of smudging, but that was a yellow underwing.
Just so you know, would it be okay if I show you one of the cats?
Oh, you want to show a cat?
Yes.
I'll tell you what, you get one of the cats while I show what you've been doing. So Hector and Felix have been also making, I don't know if you can see, this nest of oak ink that we had this morning, but here are some of the pictures. Hector, can you show which one you did? That one is Hector's moth and Mothman, and the other is Felix's moth and Mothman. I think and that's the kitten that is a danger to any drawing.
Suitcase.
Is it?
Suitcase.
Yeah.
And I can put her in suitcases.
And is it a danger to moths? Do cats ever eat moths?
Yes.
We have had that problem, but we can confirm that Simon's advice to, we were wondering how to get rid of moths once you have them in the house. And Simon's advice of turning the light off and leaving the window open does work. So thank you very much for that, Simon. We managed to let the other moths escape without having any damage from kittens or boys or me.
Great, lovely. Thank you very much, Joey. And we will now move on to another site, another person, which is Amy in Torbay, in Abbots Kerswell, with Barry.
Good morning, everybody, from rather soggy Abbots Kerswell. The sun keeps coming out and then rain comes in again. And anyway, we're here, and I'm joined by the very, very fabulous Barry Henwood and Mandy Henwood here. As I said last night in the piece, I'm very lucky to live in the same village as these expert people. And so, well, despite the rain, as Simon said, we've got one or two moths to show you. So I'm going to just flip to my phone so that I can do this in a mobile way. So just give me a moment, please. Okay. Sorry for the feedback. Okay, can we all see? Is that working? Yeah. I'm going to turn the camera around. Right, here we are. Okay, so I'll just do it very quickly. As I said last night, my moth trap works perfectly well, but it's in no way quite as stunning as Barry's. But I'll just give you a quick, oops, just lost one there. For those of you that were watching last night and paying attention, you'll remember as well that I showed you some caterpillars of the buff ermine moth. There was one stuck to the side, and now it shed its skin last night, so that's the leftover of skin, but they've been feeding well overnight, and there's lots of evidence of that in the bottom of the box. And rather obligingly, we had a buff ermine here, so I'm going to try and just fish it out without sending it away, and you can see what it looks like. Here we go. That's the little moth, that those eggs that I showed you in the honeysuckle last night produce. We've also got, as Simon did, a rather lovely, but maybe a bit worn out, this one. This is another elephant hawk moth, and you see the colours aren't quite as striking, although you can still see the greens and the pinks of it. It is looking like it's done a few rounds in the garden.
Amy, how long do they live for? The elephant hawk moths type.
How long do they live for? Do you
well, I don't know precisely. I would think they would live for several weeks. I mean, I would think probably 5-6 weeks, probably.
All right, okay.
This is underside. Anything else of any interest in there?
A heart and club here.
Heart and club. That's the that's another buff ermine there. And interestingly, the caterpillars that I've actually got in the box are from a buff ermine moth. Do you see that one's got little spots on it? But the ones that I'm raising were from a mother that didn't actually have any spots on it. That's rather unusual. So it'll be interesting to see what the caterpillars actually turn out. The caterpillar moths turn out to be. What's that one there?
It's a dark arches.
Okay. We're going to move over. Oh, hang on a minute. There's Simon was trying to show a barred straw in its nut resting position. That's one there, and that's how they're resting, which is quite unusual. I think we're going to go over to the mega trap now. And I've actually remembered this time, that's my bedroom now, I've remembered to shut the bedroom window because as a rookie mother, I've made a few schoolgirl errors in my time, and on emptying the trap, and most of them have ended up in my bedroom, so much to my husband's displeasure. But
so this sizable thing's actually a micro moth officially. It's called mother of pearl.
That one there.
Moths feed on little caterpillars rather feeding on stinging nettles.
I'll have a look at all these in here. I mean, it's absolutely alive. Oh my goodness, look, that's an exciting one.
This one.
Here.
Oh yeah, poplar hawk moth there.
There's a poplar hawk moth. That one.
Yeah, privet hawk moth here.
Sorry if I'm moving the camera around a little bit. It's a bit jumpy.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine, Amy.
Privet hawk moth there. Okay.
I'll just move this around. Elephant hawk moth. This one here is a flame. It's a bit like the buff tip it hasn't got the buff tips to its wings, but it's got the thorax like a broken twig. So it's a similar sort of disguise. It's very common moth here, the heart and dart.
Now these are our biggest, aren't they? And I'm just going to try and interfere with it a bit and show you its underside.
Privet hawk moth, yeah.
Can you see the pink and black stripes of its abdomen or thorax? A word for it. There. I mean, these are enormous. You'd know about it if one of those sort of bumped into in the middle of the night. Whoop.
Amy, you know the pink and black stripy thorax?
Yes.
Do they reveal? Do they try and frighten off predators with that? Is that why they're so brightly coloured?
I don't know. What's the reason for it?
Really, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, it's actually it is the abdomen that's pink and black striped. But it's possible that it's a defence if a bird finds one resting and touches it, then it could reveal that pink and black stripe, and then hopefully frighten the bird off. I mean, I would imagine that's what's going on.
Mm. What have we got here? Oh, look, I mean, look at the colours of these. I think that was the thing that really took me by surprise when I first started mothing. You know, I've said it before, but it's like a theatre. It's like a bunch of cast. So you don't know who's going to turn up. You know there's going to be some stars of the show. You know there's going to be lots of sort of little brown extras as well. But actually, you know, when you see that this time of year, it's just staggering.
Brimstone moth against the elephant hawk.
Yellow is the brimstone there. Yeah.
What else we've got?
In terms of colours, I remember last week we said that you could get all colours but very rarely blue.
Yeah.
What was it that we said about blue? I can't remember.
We said that blue is relatively common in the butterflies, but it's not a pigment, it's a structural colour.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's rather like the sky's blue.
And there's a peppered moth here, is that right, Barry?
Yeah, it's peppered moth, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look at all this lot. And here.
Smoky wainscot here. A few wainscot. What else we got? Dark arches here.
Cool.
Yeah.
And these here as well, this one you can see the scales have worn off slightly, and there's it looks like it's got a red dot on it, but I don't think it is. It's just where it's all been a bit rubbed off, so it can be confusing when you're first trying to ID.
Little collection of elephant hawk moths.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
A stampede.
I can see 6 at the moment. 7. 8. I can see 8.
Somebody, I think it's Chloe's, put in the chat, she said, have the birds turned up yet? It looks like a box of chocolates.
We've got a very clever sparrow or two that seems to know. Now this one here is a poplar.
Yeah, poplar
hawk
hawk
moth.
moth, yeah.
Again, it's got that, if you can see it, it's got a red flash underneath its wings, which I guess is for...
It's a defence mechanism.
Yeah, a defence. So perhaps with the privet same, you can just see a little bit of it there. And it just looks like scrunched up leaf, doesn't it?
If I do what the bird would do, the bird comes and attacks it, and the moth shows off
there,
its red.
can you see the flash of sort of that lovely rusty colour there?
Yeah.
We've
So
got broad bordered yellow underwing here.
Oh, I've not seen one of those before.
So that moth they sort of go quite dormant in the summer. They like have a nice ovation and then appear again more active in the autumn.
Yeah. And you see how they're vibrating their wings, getting sort of ready to leg it, really, because they've had quite enough of us interfering with them. So they're warming themselves up in order to go and fly up here into the vine and get eaten by a sparrow if they're not careful. So
yeah, which is, I suppose, is why you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't catch moths and identify them every night for weeks and weeks and weeks, because you'd end up having very fat birds. And
yeah,
and you wouldn't catch the same ones each time as well, I suppose. I don't know. I like to give them a rest.
Yeah.
So what else we got?
So Mandy there is writing down what we're finding, because ideally, once you start making your discoveries, you need to send them in to your county moth recorder, which in this instance is Barry. It's very important to track and monitor what it is we're looking at.
This one's the European corn borer.
Golly.
I guess it eats corn.
Well, it's sort of in the stems of a variety of plants, presumably corn being one of them, yeah.
And there, in the corner there is a magpie. Do you remember last night we were talking about the small magpie? There was a picture of it in your presentation, Naomi.
Yeah.
That one there itself is a magpie. And there's another little buff tip.
The clouded silver.
Clouded silver.
Fantastic. So those, when we were practicing this, I think found out that there are more than 2,500 species in Britain of the bigger moths, and another 1,000 or more of the smaller moths, the micro moths. So it's a massive number of species. Has that been changing? What's here and the numbers of them, has that been changing the last 10 or 20 years?
Well, the answer is yes. I mean, the trouble is with the British list, which that number will include, it'll include things that sadly have become extinct, but particularly in recent years, moths are regularly colonising. I mean, that European corn borer was just a sort of regarded as an immigrant species, really, but now it's clearly resident, and there's moths that have never been seen before until the last few years, and yet have managed to establish themselves. So in a sense, the list's going up, although it's easier to notice arrivals and notice extinctions.
Yeah. So is that due to the changing temperatures, or due to the, I don't know, the changing other environments that we get more moths from away coming to stay here?
Well, I think that global warming undoubtedly has a part to play, and things that previously needed the temperatures in more southerly parts of Europe are managing to establish themselves here. But the other factor is, some of them are establishing themselves on alien plants that we plant in our gardens, like Leylandii and the various other cupressus species. So there's about 5, oh, even more probably. There's several species that are dependent on our garden cupressus for hedges and so on.
That's interesting, Barry. Thanks. So, what's your favourite catch this morning? What are you really pleased to see in your?
Well, I think they're all pretty common moths that we see regularly, but
not in my trap.
I mean, there's 8 elephant hawk moths is always a joy.
Yeah, and I think, you know, these buff tips are just amazing. The way that they're designed, it's extraordinary, and I love seeing this. I reared some of these from caterpillars actually in the spring, and that was good fun. When you start out mothing and you find these things that you can't identify, and you know, you feel certain, or I do, you know, that you've probably got some sort of incredible new species, and I get a picture and I look through the books and I can't find it, and so I go and send a message to Barry, you know, what is it, feel sure that it's you know, something previously undiscovered, and it comes back as a sort of drab Quaker or a sort of a brown dot, or you know, you feel that it's going to have some sort of wonderful name, but you know, even the little brown jobs.
Although, you know, we're often tempted to use words like Amy did, that they're designed. I mean, in reality, I think it's more remarkable that they're not really. It's all down to random mutation and cumulative selection. It's just extraordinary.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Right. Thank you.
There we go, I think. Okay.
Yeah, well, we might be back, but we'll...
Just thinking about that peppered moth that you saw, and the boys and I were learning about how peppered moths mutated, or rather some of the black peppered moths increased in numbers, and the white peppered moths decreased in numbers, and then it kind of switched back again. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Barry, can you talk about peppered moth? I'm sorry, here we go. I'm just flipping over. Excuse me.
Right. Sorry. What was the question?
Peppered moth.
Yes.
Tell us about peppered moth.
Peppered moth. Well, yeah. I mean, the peppered moth is an example of evolution in recent years, really, that is taught in schools. When there was a lot of pollution from industrial activity, the trees in urban and suburban areas got, I suppose, to an extent covered in soot, but also, more importantly, the lichens didn't like it, and they didn't survive well. So there was a mutation whereby the peppered moth became black all over rather than this speckled white and black, and the birds couldn't notice those as well as the speckled forms, and so that form became predominant. And then with the clean air and so on, that form has, you know, pretty much disappeared now, and we're back to the traditional black and white speckled form. So
that's right.
Sort of Darwinian selection in action, really.
Cool. Thank you. Well, thank you, you two. We might be back. We've got 2 more sites to visit. We have David up in Dartmoor, well, on the edges of Dartmoor, and John as well. Should we go over to John's film now, Jenny and John? And we
can. I've got it ready, John, when you
unmute yourself.
Yeah, that's
Lovely.
me. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear?
No, that's great.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we've got a short film coming up. I haven't got a signal where I am, so this is me a couple of days ago. It's a nice sunny morning, or very early in the morning, actually about 5:30, 5 o'clock I got up. There was a roe deer or two. This is at Brookwood, just near where I live in Buckley. Roe deer spotted me, and we set the moth trap up by the hayloft. Robbie, who works at Brook Manor for Kevin and Donna, set up the trap. I go along there in the morning and have a look to see what's inside. It's a fabulous area with woodlands and meadows managed as a nature reserve, so there's always lots and lots of moths to see there. Happy looking in the trap here and seeing what I got. And I think the first thing, we've seen a few of these today, are elephant hawk moths. They seem to be pretty abundant at this time of year. Fabulous moths. This is a brass emerald. It's actually a green moth. They go a little bit pale when they get a bit worn. That was a triple spotted clay, a large yellow underwing, and what we've got here, we've got a coronet moth, big black and white with very sort of speckled markings. Scalloped hazel. And this beautiful sort of Art Deco peach blossom moth. Actually stunning design on that one. Beautiful. Little micro moth, Califa striana, just about a few centimetres or so long. The peppered moth that we were just talking about, and the barred straw as well, with those curled up. You see the curled up hind wings quite clearly on that. I know Chloe's sons wanted to see one of these. This is a garden tiger moth, quite a stunning moth. Beautiful red. I love the blue spots on the hind wings with the little yellow rings around the spots as well, just to really bring out that blue colour on the spots there. And they start off life as a woolly bear caterpillar. Treble limes moth, so 3 lines. Again, that's a bit worn. This is a bright line brown eye moth with markings on the wings. Another triple spotted clay. And, this is a buff ermine. This is it playing dead, called catalepsy, where the insects play dead and pretend to be dead, because birds presumably don't want to eat dead insects. But also these might be slightly poisonous. They have that orange markings on the underside of their body. More hawk moths. So we've got elephant hawk moths there and a privet hawk moth. Close up view of these. A friend of mine's daughter calls this the Barbie moth because it has that pink Barbie pink on it. Quite camouflage actually in amongst their food plants. And here's the caterpillar. Simon mentioned it earlier. Has a long trunk-like forebody to it, which is where the moth gets its name from. Privet hawk moth. And I actually poked one, and this is it doing its startling display, which I presume is to frighten off small birds. I mean, it's almost as big as a robin or whatever. So it sits on the ground, and if it's pecked, it will just do this movement with its wings and stick its antennae out. And it starts off life as a huge great caterpillar, enormous thing. It feeds on lilac and elm and things like that. These are some of the tricky ones to ID, some of the little brown moths. This is an uncertain moth, and at the moment we're catching rustic moths as well. That's the two together. They're very similar, and they look quite easy to ID there, but they do get worn and quite tricky to tell apart. This week there's been a lot of silver Y moths which have flown up from the continent, come up from France and Spain on the southerly winds, and they're everywhere at the moment in the grasslands. You more often see them in the daytime, actually. They do come to light, but you tend to see them fluttering around and flying in the day. They actually migrate north from, they winter down in the Mediterranean, they fly here, they breed here in the summer. These moths will die, and then their young will fly back south in the autumn. Just having a look round the trap, of course, there's just as many things around the trap as in sometimes. A willow beauty there. This is a clouded buff, which has flown in off Dartmoor. We're just on the edge of Dartmoor. It's quite a common moth on the moor. Willow beauty there, and the lovely lobster moth with its furry edge, so it sort of melds itself into the background on a twig. It sort of hugs onto a twig or a branch. And the lobster moth is named after its caterpillar, which looks, I suppose, a bit like a lobster. It's only red. Buff tit moth and its camouflage position. And lastly, this one, a drinker moth. And this one, again, is named after the caterpillar. The caterpillars feed on dry grasses, and they drink dewdrops to get the moisture. So finishing off the trap, I make a note of everything that's in there, and there's usually quite a few. It takes me an hour or so to have a look through the trap here and make a note of everything. So I'll send in all those records to Barry later in the year, check a few IDs, and then it's only 6 o'clock, so I've got a busy day working. I'm out and about for the rest of the day, so it's a nice way to start the day. Okay, have we got any questions from that?
Oh, Naomi, you're muted. That was amazing, John. There was such variety there. And such looks like such a beautiful place to spend a morning as well.
Oh yes, yeah, it's a lovely spot just around the corner from me. So I'm very privileged to be able to go and wander around there anytime I like. So it's very nice, and it's absolutely full of moths. And also being on the edge of the moor, there's a real abundance still of moths there. I mean, one thing I've noticed over the years of moth trapping, I've been trapping for about 40 odd years, is that there's still quite a lot of variety. The pure numbers of moths have declined enormously since when I started in the mid 1970s. You could catch, something like 800, or I know Barry's caught like thousands of heart and dart moths in a single night. We don't really see that much anymore. Apart from places like Brook Manor, I mean, a year or so ago, I caught 100 brimstone moths all around the trap, which was quite a sight to see. So it's good to know there are places like this where the numbers are still, something like what they used to be.
So do you think, as Barry said, it's a mixture of reasons why there's been a decline?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of changes in the use of the land, really. Tidying up of hedges and industrialisation of the countryside, strimming hedges and cutting fields and all that sort of thing has declined and made things much rarer than they were. And also just the sort of crops and insecticides and things like that which are used. There's a whole variety of different things, plus changes in the climate. So it's not just one thing, but a whole barrage of different things. But some moths are doing well, but other ones not so well. And in general, the general abundance of moths has declined right across the countryside. Not just moths; it's everything really has declined certainly in the last 50 years.
If you were to choose one thing that we might do to start to reverse that, what might that be?
Well, really, I mean, we've got control over, if you had lucky enough to have a garden, we've got control over a garden. So I think really start at home, really, and actually create habitats. And like Simon's got his Hazel Tree, native plants in your garden, as well as, for food plants. Because these things, spend most of their life as a caterpillar, and that's the important part of their life's history is actually what they feed on. So see what moths you've caught and see what they feed on. And maybe if you've got space, plant some of their food plants in your garden.
That's really good advice. Thanks, John. We're going not far away from you now to see what Dave's caught out in his field, on the edges of his field. Hi, Dave.
Hi, everybody. How are we?
Yeah, hi. Hello. And how have you done? What are you going to show us?
Yes, okay. Not many moths. I've had to relocate from where the actual moth trap is just to get a signal to you guys. I've now come out to the meadow. The moth trap's about 20 metres away under a great big oak tree. I think the oak tree's covered in water from all the rain, so I think it's stopping the signal go through. But pretty much the same sort of haul that everybody else has got. So a barred straw there, doing what it does. You've seen that already, which is quite cool. That's a first for us here on the farm.
Oh,
good. Large yellow underwing, not doing that much in the pot, but it was very active when I first got it out.
There seems to be a lot of those around at the moment. Are they about a lot of the summer, or
I think we're probably
time of year?
Yeah, I think we're probably in it's flying around those where you can see the actual flash of the yellowy orange. I'm actually colourblind, so I see different colours than other people, so it can get a bit confusing for me. Buff ermine again. So if you can see that.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
So pretty much again. And there is a dig at a silver Y that John was just recently talking about. I don't know if you actually can see the Y on the wing there.
We can just about, actually. It's amazing what these cameras on the phones do.
Only one of these in the trap at the moment. And then a new one for us here on the farm as well is buff arches. That's a very, very, very stunning little moth. I think you can see that one.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. But carrying on the conversation, you were saying of what we can do. I think the biggest thing we can do in the landscape is actually change our farming. I think that is absolutely fundamental to actually nature's recovery at the moment, and to make it a lot more robust and resilient for climate change. And it's one of the things that we're trying to do here, is actually farm a lot more with and alongside nature rather than against it. And we're very, very lucky here that Beck's dad he's pretty much more of a naturalist than a farmer, and he's kept his part of the family farm here very, very natural looking. So very small meadows, all the meadows are surrounded by big oak trees. But I think the big thing is the industrial farming that's making the landscape quite toxic, and all the chemicals that are being pumped out that aren't very good for insect life, and then that cascades up the food chain to everything else, really.
Yeah.
But that's it for me. Not much of a haul. We probably had about 50 moths in my heath trap, but it was raining heavily all night here. So as I said yesterday, we're going to carry on mothing across the whole summer to get our first species list up for the year, and then we're going to carry on every year from then on, right?
Fantastic. And you're reminding me to just say to everybody how important it is to, when you are catching moths, to identify them as best you can, to record them, to understand what's going on in your landscape, and people like Barry and John, who are doing that across the region. It's a really good record to understand how perhaps to make the land better, like you're doing. So
exactly, yeah. There's insects and what first feed on insects are such a great indicator of the health of the land base. I specialise in doing professionally lots of bat work, and as John was saying about the abundance, the sheer volume of moths have declined. In the past 10 years where I've been doing mainly bat work, I've seen a huge drop off in that of bats flying around. I had the moth trap out here on the farm for an evening. I actually stayed up all night, and I had my bat detector with me, and obviously bats feed on moths. And I only had 6 pipistrelle bats fly past in 5 hours, which is quite shocking, really. So it's as John says, if we can all start at home and make our gardens a lot more wild, and support people on the land who are trying to change it for the better, really. And if you've got the capacity to, write to your MP.
Well, funny you should say that. I think, thank you very much, Dave. We'll go back to Simon in a sec, just to have a little bit of a better look at his garden, because he's going to show people some of the flowers. But the Art and Energy website and our installation will be collecting people's hopes for the future and ways in which that we can act on to make the planet a better place, or our patch a better place. So after this show, if people want to actually leave a message, they can look on our website, and there's a little recorder with it says speak pipe, and you just got a minute to say something about what you'd hope for. Give us your whisper. So thanks, Dave. We're hoping to see you again in a month's time. Let's go to Simon to have a look at his garden. Hi, Simon. You were going to show us. Yeah, I noticed you were showing your buff tip on a twig, and now you're showing us a few more of your plants that we could put in our garden for moths.
Yes, that's it. I thought I'd just do a little tour. I mean, as with everything with wildlife, be a little bit untidy. I mean, I'm going to go back to the hazel tree, because I think the hazel tree is pulling in quite a few different moths. And the thing about the hazel tree is, obviously it's a native shrub, so that's brilliant, because there's lots of species that feed on it. But we don't keep it tidy at the base. So a lot of the moths will sort of overwinter as pupae in the leaf litter and soil at the base of the tree. So you can see we got a little log pile there. But generally, don't be tidy. Don't be too tidy. Where's my script? Because I've got some pictures on here, because I haven't got the actual moths with me today. But just a few things. Herbs. thyme. Here's a thyme plant in flower, and if you've got thyme in your garden and marjoram and things like that, you will find this moth at the moment, which is one of the little micro moths, but it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a sort of golden purple pyralid moth. So that's really good. Something I may have in the trap, but I haven't looked yet. But there's a couple of very similar species here, the campion and the lychnis. And I'm not quite sure which one is which, because as you can see, they are very, very similar, but beautifully marked. But they the larvae feed on red campion and white campion. So here we've got a little bit of a wildflower area going. It's only very small, but there's some oxeye daisies, and the red campion here you can just see is just going over from flower, and it's got lots of seed heads. So these moths, the larvae actually feed on the seeds inside the capsule.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So yeah, I mean, it's by no means a... Oh, and the other thing I've put in recently is a tiny little pond. It's a bit pathetic. It's just really a what do you call it? A garden, a kitchen bowl, and it's tiny. There's a little log pile here, and we've had frogs and tadpoles in here already. I did have a bit of a disaster, I must admit. I put some pebbles in. If you watched Gardener's World last night, one of the presenters was creating a pond, and he was putting some pebbles in, and I was sort of eking because it was so unfortunate. One of these pebbles actually fell down and caught the leg of the frog. The water, and it couldn't escape. I'm so desperate about it, and so is my wife. It's just one of those things. There's more larvae, there's more tadpoles in there, so there will be more frogs.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's great. I love that tour, and some very simple things that we can put in our gardens that will encourage a wider variety of moths. And there's various, thank you, Simon, and we're sort of coming towards the end of our morning hours, Watch Moths. And there was a question about whether all this trapping can do moths harm. What do you reckon, guys? I mean, I think keeping a record of moths is absolutely necessary and educational, and getting more people to understand the ecosystem in which we live is essential. But do you think they could do any harm?
Well, I think it's certainly not going to be doing them any good. So I think we need to do it responsibly, really. But to be honest, it's a bit of a trade-off. If you don't collect the data and know what's here, you can't do anything about conserving it. And I think there's very little by way of robust data sets on. We can say we think moths have declined, but in actual proving it in terms of numbers, you just need data like we collect. So I think, yes, we just have to be careful about how we do it, really. Yeah.
Thank you. And as Art and Energy, in our collective, we have a laser cutter called Dave, and he has been cutting our solar cells. He's cut 2,000 or more moth shapes for us for this project. But he's working out how to make a flat pack moth trap, and that is going to possibly be shown next month. And all of us will be able to see it and see what we think of it. Right, so we have actually now come to the end of our hour, and it's been a fantastic hour. so many moths out there, and although I went for a quick walk yesterday and I saw, my eyes are more acutely aware of what's going on, and seeing all these tiny little moths leaping about the long grass and things as I'm walking, I noticed those. But on the whole, you're not aware of such a wide variety of beautiful creatures coming out at night. And perhaps one of the best lessons to learn is not to leave our lights on at night, and to try and reduce the amount of night light out there on the streets and in our shop windows and so on as well. So next time then, our second Watch Moths is at the end of July. I think it's the 25th and 26th of July. I must say I haven't actually double checked, but anyway, it's at the end of July.
It's on a slide in a moment, Naomi, don't panic.
It's on the slide, oh good, yeah. Good. Well, good. And this here, we are going to be launching a new app, a new augmented reality activity colouring sheet through an app called Quiver Vision, and it's going to be a large picture. This is an element of it, and for people to colour in and to take part in our installation. I think Jenny could talk us through this bit.
Yeah, I'm just going to turn the sound off, because I think I've got some horrible jazzy sound. You won't be able to hear me. So this is an example of an existing colouring sheet. This isn't our one. We're hoping to have ours for a test run next week. So you begin by printing off your colouring sheet and colouring it in, decorating it as you wish. You can colour it, you can write, your pledge of hope for the future, or your whisper of hope for the future, and then you use your device to bring it to life and have the moth flutter around the room. And with our one, we will be able to you'll be able to record a short selfie or a video clip of your moth fluttering around your home, your room, your garden, as you wish. And we're asking you to then share those with us, and we will be combining those to create an artwork to take up to Glasgow to COP26 in November 2021. And we're hoping we'll have something to show at Plymouth Art Weekender. So if you're available at the end of September, to pop along and see what we've been up to. So this is just our final slide. We've got the Art and Energy website at the top there with lots of information. We'd really like to extend a huge amount of thanks to Plymouth Energy community for their support in so many ways. I totally recommend checking them out if you've got any concerns regarding your energy use in your own home. Lots of extremely helpful advice on there. Also to the Arts Council England for some funding towards the project. There is a donate button on the Art and Energy website. Every little helps for us to get our project up to Glasgow for next year. And there's also that link that Naomi was talking about, to be able to record your whisper of hope. We're going to add those and combine them to make a soundscape to go alongside our artwork. And then at the bottom there are the dates: Friday the 24th of July, Saturday the 25th of July, and that is now live and bookable via Eventbrite. So please spread the word. It will be similar to this session, but we have got some lovely poetry, and we've also got the augmented reality colouring sheet launch.
Great. Yeah, thanks. So thank you very much, everybody, our presenters, moth experts, all our participants. And we'll see you in a month's time. We'll be trying to reach you, encourage people to come back, as well as have a whole load more interested people joining us. So see you in July. Are you going to say something, Jenny?
I was just going to say there've been quite a few questions through the chat, and we've touched on a few of them, and Simon in particular has been absolutely fantastic at replying to some of those. We'll be looking back through that and probably addressing some of those through our Facebook group, through our Facebook page in the coming week or two. So if you have got any other questions, feedback and so on, please do get in touch. We're grateful for any of that. Thank you.
Thank you then.
Have a lovely day.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.